Hey guys, welcome back to another video on the Shadowrun Returns editor. If you've been following along so far, in the last video we built out a hub. We put a quest-giving NPC in there and we controlled their behavior with a global variable or a story variable. And in this video I think we're going to take those same concepts and develop them a little bit further. We're going to create a vendor in our hub who can sell us equipment, and we're going to check the status of the global story variable. We're going to see how far the story has progressed, and once the story progresses our vendor is going to have new and better equipment to sell us, which is a pretty standard thing. If you've played the game you've seen this in action. So in order to do that we're going to need to make an NPC, give them an inventory which they can then sell to the player, and we're going to need to determine which inventory they have available to them at any given time through the use of tags. So let's go ahead and create a few tags right now to start with. Down here on the lower left in scene data where it says tags, right click, create tag. Now the inventory by default of vendors and merchants in Shadowrun is divided up into tiers. There's a tier 1 inventory, a tier 2 inventory and a tier 3 inventory. So I'm just going to divide these up. I'm going to make 3 tags for 3 different tiers. I'm going to call them T1, T2 and T3. And all that tags are in Shadowrun is a player defined label which can then be applied to any interactable NPC or piece of terrain or object, and which can then be checked by the existing trigger and event systems so that you can be really specific and really customize how your world reacts to certain events. So now we've got our 3 tags. Let's start creating our merchant. So to do this all you need to do is create an NPC. You've done this before, so it's pretty simple. We're going to drag in an actor spawner, set their type to non-combatant, set their team to civilian. The only other thing I want to do right now here is under properties where it says spawn at map start. That's by default set to true. I'm going to set it to false. So even if they exist in our editor, they won't appear in the map until some condition brings them in. I'm then going to edit their character sheet to give them an appearance and a name. I'm going to make this a human female poor civilian. I'm going to give her a portrait of some kind. That'll do. I'm going to give her a name. She's going to be a matrix vendor, I've decided, so I'm just going to call her Matrix. And then I'm going to hit save. The only other thing I want to do in her properties right this very second, well, before I do anything else, let's save and let's copy her and paste her a couple of times. Actually, you know what, just once will be enough. We've got 2 of them now. One of these is going to be a tier 1 vendor. The other one, identical in appearance, is going to be a tier 2 vendor. So with the first one selected, under actor properties, I'm going to change her prop name to Matrix Vend T1 and the second one to Matrix Vend T2. Then on that tier 1 vendor, in her character sheet, under equipment, I'm going to sort through this drop down list until I find HK Merchant Matrix 1, and I'm going to click the green cross, which then dumps all the default equipment for a tier 1 Matrix vendor into her inventory. I'm going to hit save, and I'm going to do pretty much the same thing with the tier 2 version. On the equipment sheet I'm going to give her the tier 2 HK Merchant Matrix 2, hit the green cross. So that's the default equipment, but we're not limited to only the default equipment. By using add equipment we can give them any individual piece of gear we want. So let's give the tier 2 version a level 4 health kit as well and hit save. The only thing that's missing now is to assign them their tags. We've got these tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 tags, so with the tier 1 vendor selected I scroll down her properties until I find the field for tags, and then I just type in the name of the tag that I want to assign, in this case T1. and then the same for T2. You have to do this manually. There's no automatic way to do it that I know of. So you've got to make sure you type those tag names in properly. Now, we've got our two vendors. We've given them the appropriate tags. Now we need to control which one of those two spawns at any given time. We're going to do that with a trigger. It's pretty simple and easy. Under scene data, right click, under triggers, create trigger, new trigger. I'm going to say T1 vend spawn. And we need to give this a when, an if, and a do condition. So our when condition, well, we want the vendors to be spawned as the map is initializing, right? We don't want to do it later. So we could use on curtains up, we could use on map setup or on map start. They're all equally fine. Some are quicker than others. I'm going to use on map start. The if condition, well, we're going to control which one of these two spawns with the global story variable. So the if condition will be, we're going to compare integer, and we're going to say if story variable is equal to 0. The do condition will be actors, activate actor spawner by tag. We're going to activate spawners with the tier 1 tag without smoothing if the global story variable is 0. That's really simple. And then we're going to duplicate this trigger, right click on it, duplicate trigger. And now we're going to make a very similar one for tier 2 vendors. We're going to say when the continue button is pressed on the loading screen, if the global story variable is equal to 1 rather than 0, we are going to activate spawners with the T2 tag without smoothing. So that's going to control which out of these two guys is going to appear in the world. I'm just going to move them around slightly. We could in fact have both of these superimposed on one another. Wouldn't matter, and I think that's how they do it in the base game. We'll put them next to each other so it's a bit more, just so we can see them in the editor. So we've got our actors, we've assigned them their tags, we've given them different inventories, we've set up a method for them to spawn in the game. All we're missing is a way to interact with them. We can do that with conversations, it's pretty simple. Before I do that, I'm actually going to assign these two generic interactions, or dummy interactions, even better. Just so that the game is thinking of them as interactables in the background. This is just a precaution against the editor crashing. Sometimes when you assign interactions, in my experience, the editor panics a little bit. So I'm going to assign them dummy interactions now. And then we're going to create our conversation. Our conversation, we're going to call it just something like hub-matrix vendor. We only need one conversation. We can assign the same conversation to both of these characters. And we only need a very simple dialogue tree here. The vendor's just going to say, hey, what can I get for you? And we're just going to say either show me your stuff, or we're going to say nothing, sorry, in case we want to back out. And if we ask to see their stuff, they're going to say sure thing, and then we'll assign a continuation, these two overlapping speech bubbles here, to give them essentially a second page of dialogue, but we won't put any actual text in here. All we're going to do is, on this second page of dialogue, under conditions and actions, we'll hit the green cross, and we'll just choose an effect. Under actors, open store screen from actor. But because we're going to assign this same conversation to both of these NPCs, we can't say open one specific actor's inventory, because it might not be the right one. But what we can do is, where it says new actor, we can hit right click, go under functions, and we can choose triggering target actor. And what that means is, when this screen of dialogue is loaded up, the inventory of the actor that is the target of your player character will be opened. So that should work no matter who we assign it to. We could assign this conversation to every NPC in the game. We hit save, click OK, let the editor have a think about what it's doing. Now we've got our new conversation up here, hub matrix vendor. I'm going to hit save. Now it's possible the editor will crash when I try to assign these conversations. It's been happening a lot lately. It's just finicky like that. But let's try. matrix vendor tier 1, hit the hammer, assign an interaction type of conversation. We choose the conversation, and we're going to choose hub matrix vendor. We're going to give it the icon of conversation, and we're going to hit apply. Seems to have worked. And then we'll do exactly the same thing for the tier 2 vendor. Add an interaction of conversation. Assign the conversation we just made. And give it the conversation icon. And we hit apply. So that should be everything working. Let's have a look in the map and check. When we load in, they should be, one of the two should be standing next to this barricade. If I've missed anything, we'll come back and fix it. Save, open the scratch pad. Let's go. So far, so good. Okay, let's just get a character. And here we are in the game world. We can see only one of our two vendors has appeared. We'll talk to her. Show me your stuff. And we can see she's got a pretty standard tier 1 inventory. It's all level 1 programs and a couple of pretty cheap cyber decks, although we don't have any money so we can't buy them. That seems to be working. We'll run over and have a quick chat with our quest giver. And we'll very quickly run through the quest. I might even speed this up in editing. Okay, so here we are, we've done the quest, and by handing the quest in with Barry, we've changed the we've caused the global story variable to change from 0 to 1. So when we now load up the hub, with the global story variable set to 1, it will load up the tier 2 version of the merchant, and the tier 1 version, well, the conditions for her to be spawned won't have actually been met, so she'll stay inactive in the background. And sure enough, when we get back, we see she appears to be the same. She's in a different position. When we talk to her and ask to see her inventory, we can see she's got more expensive cyber decks, and she has the tier 2 versions of some of the ESPs. And further to this, she has the high grade med pack that we assigned to her in her character sheet. So that's that. That's the core of it anyway. And you can use the same process to make obviously any other kind of merchant that you'd like. I think I'll save the text expansions for the next video, although I've got them working already. Just because this is getting on towards 20 minutes now. So yeah, next time we'll talk about text expansions so that when the hub loads back in, we can change the text that's on display. And I guess maybe we need to start thinking about using the matrix in the Shadowrun Returns editor and how we can implement that functionality for the player. And I don't really know that there's many other core features to discuss after that, so if anybody does have anything they particularly want to see explained, you can always feel free to ask in the comments. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.